We are going to build a to-do app using emerging web technologies. The tech stack will consist of Elixir and the Phoenix framework on the back end. We'll use Tailwind CSS, Elm, and Webpack 4 on the front. And to tie the front and back together, we're going to speak the GraphQL API language. Let's get started. First up, let's create a new Phoenix app. And we'll go ahead and create our database and get our dependencies. Now we'll want to remove brunch as Webpack is the default in Phoenix 1.4. So let's go ahead and edit our package.json file. I'm just going to copy and paste the one from Phoenix 1.4 into here. Now that we've got that, let's go ahead and download the Webpack config and the Babel RC from Phoenix 1.4. After that, we'll need to configure our dev environment to have Webpack watch all of our asset files. So go ahead and update our watcher to use Webpack instead of brunch. Now we've got that done, let's go ahead and get into assets and we'll download everything from npm using yarn. Last thing to do is to run our server and make sure everything's working. As we can see, Webpack is working and watching our assets and compiling it all up for us. Now that we have Webpack working, let's go ahead and install Elm. Get into our assets here and let's add the Webpack loader. Edit our Webpack config. Just go down here and look for the Elm files. Exclude the stuff that we don't want it to compile. And then use the loader that we got through Webpack. Here's a few options to put in. We also don't want it to parse compiled Elm stuff, so we can add that to Webpack as well. Now let's make our directory for where our Elm source files are going to live. Now let's go ahead and install our Elm packages. Got those. Now we need to create an Elm program. So let's make something real simple here and just get HTML and output some text to our DOM here. Okay. Now we need to edit the layout files of Phoenix so we can get this app all embedded. So just go ahead and clear out everything that it's got in the layout, and we'll head over to page index and just delete everything out of here. So we'll create a div. We'll give it the ID of Elm main so that we can hook in our Elm app to this div. Let's go over and edit app.js. And this is where we'll import our Elm application that Webpack should pick up and compile for us. Now let's just check for that div. We'll grab it in the DOM. And if it's there, then we'll go ahead and embed this app onto that div. Alright, great. Now let's fire up our Phoenix server. And it looks like that is compiling our Elm app. Great. Let's head over to the browser and make sure this all works. Let's go to localhost 4000. And there it is. Got Elm working through Webpack. To style our application, we're going to use the Tailwind Utility First framework. So let's go ahead and get that installed. We'll add Tailwind to our npm packages. We'll add post-CSS loader, so Webpack can use that. And we'll use autoprefixer to get us some nice prefixes. Alright, we got that installed. We'll need to run the init script from Tailwind. This gives us the config.js file that we can config all of our styles from. Let's go ahead and add post-CSS to our Webpack config. And let's write a config file for post-CSS. So go ahead and write that config. We'll need to require Tailwind in here and point to our Tailwind config.js file that we got from the init. And then we'll also add auto prefixer so we can get our nice prefixes. Now we'll go into our CSS file, and this is where we're going to want to use the Tailwind hooks to pull in the different parts of the CSS. Preflight gives us our normalization stuff, components, any components you want to add, and then all the utility classes that Tailwind provides. Now let's import this CSS into our whole build chain. Now that we got that, let's go ahead and put a little styling on our Elm app and make sure this all works. We'll import the HTML attributes package so that we can add classes and stuff to our elements. And let's go ahead and put in an H1. We'll give it a class, make the text larger, and let's put a background on it. And go ahead and say we're styled with Tailwind. Let's fire up our server. Looks like all our CSS is being processed, and it works in the browser. Good deal. The final thing we'll want to add to our project here is GraphQL. Let's go ahead and get the libraries for that from Hex. We'll get Absinthe, and we'll get Absinthe plug. Let's go ahead and install those dependencies. And then we'll want to add the graphical dev tool to our environment. So let's make sure we're in dev, and we'll forward any requests to graphical endpoint to the plug. And this will give us a nice playground that we can work with to test out different GraphQL queries and stuff. And it needs a schema. We don't have this yet, but we'll go ahead and create this right after this. Alright, so let's go ahead and create that schema. We'll use Absinthe schema. And then let's go ahead and put in some dummy data in here just so we can play around with the graphical. So we'll create a type for an object or a to-do, and we'll give it an ID and a description. And then let's go ahead and create that mock data here. We'll do a to-do, give it an ID of 1, and a little description in here. And then let's create one more to-do. Alright, so now we need a root query. We'll be querying on the to-do. The argument we're going to require is ID. It can't be blank. And then let's go ahead and just inline a resolver right here that takes in that ID and looks through our data and returns the ID, the keyed ID of the to-do. Alright, that should be all we need to get GraphQL working. Let's go ahead and fire up our server. Looks like that fired up fine. Let's head over to our web browser and go to the GraphQL endpoint. Loads up great. Let's go ahead and send a query. Make sure it's all working. To do. Let's do ID of 2. And back we want, let's get everything. We'll get the ID and the description back. And there we go. Looks like it's working great. Let's just try ID 1, make sure we get something different. And it works. There we go, we got our full stack set up. So in the next video, we'll go ahead and use Tailwind CSS to style our app.